Howdy, howdy, y'all. This is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. We are where podcasts can be found. Or you give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about and supporting the wide world of animation and not taking shitty pot shots at it. But let's get this show on the road.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
And, of course, everyone's favorite Crazy Lemur, Bree.
Hello.
And yeah, we got a fun show for you tonight. We are talking about Mexico's first stop-motion animated feature, I Am Frankelda. And Cameron sat through a bunch of anime for spring 2026. But before we get there, Bree, you just finished watching the Amazing Digital Circus finale not too long ago, so you have the floor to express your thoughts.
Thank you, Mike. To all the people who gave Gooseworks shit, said that this was like the worst thing that they ever saw, that they felt betrayed, and were just genuinely fucking assholes to like the cast, the crew, and everyone involved with the show. You know what? I don't wish death for you. I don't wish you like bodily harm, other than the fact that I hope every day you wake up and step on Legos. Because to me, that is a fate worse than death, because you freaking suck.
Well said.
Exactly. Like, we're also talking about this because of the recent Fortnite collaboration, which was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. And I thought that was delightful, that little announcement trailer. And I know people are having weird reactions about it. We do not care enough to know why you guys are being weird about it. I just want to talk about how funny that punchline and execution of joke was, with Pommy being like, aren't I a little too short? And Kane just being like, fuck it, just stretches her out like a Looney Tunes character.
No, that was great. I mean, I don't play Fortnite. I have no, like, skin in this game, but, I mean, it was gonna happen. Like, however you feel about, like, Epic as a company and stuff, and from what I glanced, there's people are having, like, some weird conspiracies, and said, like, some dumbass shit, like, Goose sold the rights to Digital Circus because the copyright was at Digital Circus Inc., which more than likely is just an LLC away from Glitch for them to do Digital Circus stuff. They probably did it for either legal reasons and then just do other Digital Circus projects as like its own, you know, held company, which is kind of normal.
Yeah, now, a lot of y'all need to, like, get off your conspiracy channels and take off the tinfoil hat, y'all. There's nothing weird going on here.
Yeah, I mean, y'all Digital Circus fans are starting to look like how Joe Rogan looked last night. You don't want to go there.
No, exactly.
No.
Good lord. And then there was that whole thing because another idiot online was like, is Glitch really indie? I'm starting to think not. And it's like, if they are not beholden to a giant mega corporation like Fox, Disney, Universal, Netflix, Amazon, or whatever, if they still have to make their own merchandise to sell to fund their stuff, then no, they are not selling out. They are still indie. For the love of Christ, some of you guys are idiots.
Like, they're not a publicly held company. Like, you can't buy shares of Glitch.
I would, but they're an indie company, man. It's like, what happened with this hype for indie animation? Because it used to be like, indie's the future, indie's the future, indie is the future.
Cameron, I can answer that question. It's actually quite a simple one.
They're just miserable fucking pieces of shit.
Well, I mean, yes, that's part of the answer. But the other answer is, Glitch made the terrible, awful fucking choice to ask people to financially support them by seeing a movie in theaters.
It's like, support indie animation until you're actually asked to support indie animation.
Like, y'all gotta get off that high horse of, like, you gotta suffer and be homeless for your art. Like, fuck off.
It's not even that. I mean, that's part of it, but the other thing is, like, they don't think the artists behind it deserve to make a living. I'm like, oh, sorry, your cartoons can't always be free. I mean, yeah, it's still going to be available free on YouTube, and you can watch with ad support, but have you seen, like, YouTube fucking ad revenue? That is not enough to support animation, which, again, is super expensive.
It's like animation fans are so bad at understanding this, and I just do not understand why they are so bad at this.
Well, actually, let's do like kind of a numbers game for a sec. I mean, we don't know how much Glitch has for their shows, but I'm willing to wager the later episodes of Digital Circus, including the finale, they probably cost at least $1 to $2 million to produce.
Minimum.
And like, this is around the same time when Toonrific Tariq's Kickstarter was ending, and they revealed a few more stretch goals, and people were like, how dare you ask for more money to produce episodes 2 and 3, while also promising a Daria video essay and a Static Shock video essay. And it's like, yeah, because you guys won't show up for those videos, depending on what kind of videos he wants to make about them. Because you guys don't show up for anything unless it's based around Family Guy or other nonsense.
I mean, at that point, I only casually know, like, Tariq from the Discord we used to be in, but it's like, he's basically saying, like, hey, if you make a stretch go, I'll basically do a Patreon request. Like, are you, like, getting mad at that?
Like, I'm sorry that he's looking for a financial net to take a risk on making not only 3 episodes of a cartoon, which are basically being made on, like, a third of the budget of an actual cartoon show, but also giving you guys the stuff that you want. And listen, as much as I'm like, you know what, everyone on YouTube is suffering, they might as well just throw caution into the wind sometimes and just talk about whatever, because fuck the algorithm. But it's also like, it's that fickle mistress of it all, of you want to say fuck the algorithm, but you can't risk pissing it off too much, or else it just, like, kills your channel for no reason. And it's just like, because right now it doesn't matter if you're popular or not.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
So it's just like, why? So I get it. And also, like, we've talked about this before with the last indie animation episode, but y'all gotta deal with your racist problem. Holy shit.
Yeah. You know what? Karen, I have to ask you, because you're more into the discourse I am, because I do want to actually give some of my thoughts about Digital Circus, because it actually is going to kind of tie into the stupidity of people. But how many people were mad that Kinger's wife is black?
I don't want to know, because I'm not proud to know about the discourse. I hate it. I do not want this knowledge. I want to lock it up, put it into a chest, throw it into the deepest part of the Marianas Trench, and just forget about it. Why the hell do I know about this shit?
But it's actually kind of cool. The actress who voices Queenie, I know her through, like, YouTube. She used to do, like, I'm sure she still does song covers, but she used to do, like, a lot of Kill la Kill song covers back in the day. I think her username's, like, Sapphire, but it's like, oh, that's cool. You're still doing VO stuff. Good for you.
No, it's just like, y'all, just kick out the people who are being racist, because it's not down to the creators to police their fan bases. They can't. It's literally impossible. A lot of y'all need to report and shun and block and ban, like, those idiots out of here.
And you know what? Not to be parasocial or anything, but, like, Goose just needs to take time off for her mental health. Let the giant sentient worm lady just be free. Just let her have some space, guys.
Seriously. Like, everything that people have been saying about her, to her, like, and to people who support her, just stop. All of that, stop. Go outside, touch grass, do anything else.
Oh yeah, and don't send her videos of, like, animals being, like, abused and, like, other gore, because what the literal fuck is wrong with you? I'm sorry. By the way, I think this finale actually pretty much sticks to the landing, but even if it fucking sucked, what the literal fuck is wrong with you?
Animation fans are becoming worse than Star Wars fans, and that's saying a fucking lot. Why? just like, you guys are getting so mad over a cartoon, and yes, I can be mad about how a story or characters are written, but that's being mad at the product, not at the people. Unless the people are just downright shitty, like that freaking Chimtopia fiasco that happened over the weekend, which, boy howdy, my whole Twitter feed was all about people being like, yo, this ain't it, Chief.
I mean, objectively correct. But in like regards to Digital Circus, honestly, anyone who thought that was bad really just doesn't understand the show. And they're like, oh, why is Jax the main character? Because Jax basically symbolizes like all the themes of the show and like the overarching point. And if you didn't get that, then I'm sorry that this show, pretty much laid its cards saying, hey, this is how it's going to end, and ended exactly how it's going to end. But I'm really glad that they were able to go far with it as much as they could.
I think that ending works the more I sit with the show in my head and just kind of go back through clips and moments. It just makes all the sense that Jax is trans, and like the tragedy of it all. Like, it's sad that what turns out to be a literal fictional version of Jax just happens to end up how they do within the Digital Circus. It makes sense to me. It's just sorry that happens sometimes. These stories aren't always a happy ending.
Here's the thing about Jax thematically, just for people to own clarification, because to me this is the obvious thing. Now, I could be wrong. I don't think so. So when you have Jax and like Leroy, his real life counterpart, and I'm using he, him pronouns for Leroy because there isn't any other indication that he uses any other pronouns at this time. So just kind of getting that out of the way. So I'm gonna make this is like kind of my headcanon explanation, but I think when Leroy had his brain scans, this was right after what happened with his mom and he ran away and he needed money. That's what I'm assuming that happened. So it was him in like a really bad state. But unlike Jax, Leroy allowed himself to get help. I assume he went to therapy. He got a stable job and met friends and was able to kind of get out of that place. Jax never could. So Jax is like the bad version when you just kind of succumb to everything. Leroy is when you choose to live. And the whole thing of Jax is, and going into like the moment where he finally abstracts and like kind of truly dies, is that he finally lets someone in and lets him to be seen, and it's too late.
Like, that happens sometimes. I give them kudos for just saying, hey, not every story is a happy ending. And it's like what we talked about in the last episode. A lot of shows and creators fall under the victim, or like the decision making of either themselves because of pressure or of executive meddling, are like, no, you can't do that. You can't have a sad ending. You gotta have a happy ending. It's literally a tale as old as time, because I don't know if y'all remember what happened with the 80s G.I. Joe cartoon. When the movie came out, Duke was supposed to die. Like, he was like the main character of the G.I. Joe cartoon. And because this came out shortly after the Transformers movie, where everyone threw a fucking shit fit because Optimus Prime died, they had to quickly add in a line saying, don't worry, Duke is just unconscious. He's going to be okay. And it's just
God. Speaking of that, like, also, one of the complaints that I kind of saw in the wild before I had the full context of the ending was, why couldn't we undo abstraction? I'm like, abstraction is an allegory for suicide, you fucking dumbass!
Like,
you can't undo it!
No, it's not. There's no, like, undo button on that shit. It's like, what was the clown's character's name? The one who...
Kafka. Yeah, Kafka.
That's what happened. Because the whole thing with Jax was because of his toxic output, like, perspective on things. Like, even when he was just like, oh my god, I'm feeling hope and connection, he pushed people away, which then caused them to spiral into depression. And then the clown was like, hey, Jax, come on, man, I think I found a way to get out of here. He went nuts because Jax pushed him away. And then when they opened that door, yeah, it's, an abstract creature. There's no other way to say it. So it's just like, I feel like people just weren't ready for how dark this show could be, even though it's been there the whole time. So
it's like they ask for mature storytelling, but then when you actually get it, like, I don't like that. Just say you want fucking, gory anime fights. That's your version of adult. That or like Family Guy, and it's like, no, no, sweetie, no.
like, even if we were like slightly mildly depressed after watching Decorado and Another World, I'm glad that there is art out there that is unapologetically dark. There's a difference between, of course, obviously, having a dark subject matter and treating it with respect than just using it because, which, all the edgelord anime that come out, which we'll get into, but...
And also, here's like the other thing, for people who don't understand, because I feel like if people actually went to school and we actually did fund the arts, we wouldn't have shit like this happening.
Oh, yeah, no.
But the fact that, like, by the 5th episode, if it wasn't already abundantly apparent that the Amazing Digital Circus overall is like a trans allegory, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
It just reminds me, just thinking about it, like, now going back through the episodes, and like that whole sequence with what's the frog's character's name?
Oh, Ribbit.
Giving Jax the bow because it's like they were that close and comfortable with one another, and Jax is freaking out about that whole thing. Now makes all the more sense why the maid outfit freaked him out so much.
I think that was well done. I think they built up to it. Like, it did not come out of nowhere, because I think a lot of theorists kind of figured that out a while ago. But I mean, like, overall with, like, Digital Circus, like, if you want my evidence, like, how do you say it's a trans narrative? Let's see. They can't choose their own names. They have their whole, like, outfits and identity. Like, they have to stay to, like, this binary identity. I'm like, there's, like, I could go on, but it's obvious. Like, short of, like, hitting you over the hand with a frying pan and steamrolling it into you, it's like, come on, guys.
Here's my argument. Zubul.
Yep.
Her whole character is, I'm not comfortable with myself because I can't find the right pieces to express myself, only to then be like, I am fully acceptable as maybe being non-binary. I don't want to mislabel this. It's just...
I think they use they, them.
So non-binary.
Yeah.
Like, in general. I'm sure, and if I'm incorrect in some specific way, y'all can tell me. I'm not going to be one of those assholes who doubles down and whatever. It just makes the most sense. You can't ask for darker or more complex narrative storytelling, whether it's visual or dialogue driven, and then chicken out. You just can't. Just tell me you want Peppa Pig, and then that's it. Okay? I get it.
Is Peppa Pig well down with the sickness place? But on a serious note, I do have to wonder, like, this is where the, very, like, cynical part of my brain is. I do have to wonder if a lot of this backlash is people realizing, wait, did I just watch a show that humanizes trans people?
Yeah. Well, it like, the whole thing on top of the queer trans allegory is just finding people to connect with. Just finding that bond with either likewise spirits or just finding your own family, because it sucks out there for people who feel like they've been ostracized by their families or friends, and how good it feels to find your people, the people you connect with, you bond with. Like, this is why I like talking with you two about animation, because I don't think I could stand talking to anyone in the weird, bad side of animation fandom. Like most animation talking heads on YouTube, I don't think I could stand them. But that's because you guys care more about this stuff than just the surface level of animation, media, content creation, whatever.
That's my thing. I care more about animation as an art form than I do about just the hype moments and a very superficial appreciation for it.
Which, Mike, you're a grown-ass man. I would expect that. It's frustrating when you see people, like, around our age, maybe a little younger, they're like, I just want to live in the height. Like, then you're not living. Like, life is about the freaking experience, man. But just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, you know what? I do have to give my props to Glitch for having the biggest fucking balls on the planet to not only have, like, an openly trans creator, but I think you can make a safe argument that The Amazing Digital Circus is one of the most openly queer shows out there, and it has all these views, and it's changed everything, and it's probably, by the end of its theatrical run, going to make well over $40 million.
Digital Circus is one of the defining moments of 2020 animation. Like it's that important to the discourse of everything and the industry as a whole. And the fact that it is so openly, unapologetically queer is nothing short of a miracle, especially with what we know what studios are doing. Pixar. Because to kind of move on to anime, so I basically watched the mass majority of the spring 2026 anime season, and my one official takeaway from it is this was a damn good season. There were so many good shows. There were so many vibrant experiences that you could be offered and to take in. There were, of course, the obvious hype titles, which were going to be the hype titles no matter what. But there was just like such a diverse array of shows that you could watch. You literally had something for everyone here. And if someone wanted to jump into anime and say like, hey, did this season have enough to give me like a charcuterie sample plate of what anime can and should be, this is the season to do it. And that is so refreshing because, boy howdy, is anime becoming exhausting again. Just, there's too much of it. Even Kadokawa openly admitted that the industry is relying way too much on isekai anime to push sales numbers. I think the Code Geass director or creator openly said, we're not training artists well. We need to do this. There are too many 13-episode seasons coming out. It's not good to just throw them into the deep end with the sharks. Just hope that they come out on top. Even like MAPPA is moving from freelance positions to contract positions. I don't think I've seen an industry so aware of its issues, but still refuses to fix the foundational, I don't know if I would say corruption's the right word, but it is unwilling to uproot the whole thing to restart, even after the United Nations has officially declared that working in anime is a human rights violation.
It's almost like these production houses are. It's like the Patrick "that's not my wallet" meme, where it's like they know exactly what's wrong, but they're not going to do anything.
Are you MAPPA, where you are making 4 shows at a time? Yep. So this is part of the problem, but that's not me. God. There's always a joke from SpongeBob to relate to everything in the world. That's scary. Yep. That's scary to me a little. But I want to ask this question quickly. With how much anime is coming out and the objective truth of, unless you're a creator who has committed themselves full force into the world of anime, there is no fucking way y'all can watch all 50 plus shows that are both new and returning, short form and long form, and based on a manga, light novel, video game, multimedia project, or original title. Is it a good idea that people are still, and nothing against these content creators, but is there a reasonable excuse to say, hey, maybe don't make hate watching part of your identity, or just the anime identity of watching this stuff? Because I feel like anime fans are both equally proud that they are fans of anime, to the point that it starts to become a crutch of, if you love anime, you'll watch the trash. And it's just no, I don't have time in the world anymore. Life is short. I'm not going to sit down to watch 2 mediocre rom-com animes that are so desperately wanting to be Kaguya-sama Love is War, but do not understand the appeal of Kaguya-sama Love is War.
I think you raise a good point. It almost feels impossible to be as in the know of all these shows because there just isn't enough time in the day to watch everything.
Not only that, but you're just wasting time watching garbage because it gets more views.
And it's how helpful is hate watching? Because it's like, I get it. You need an escape. You don't want to put your brain to something that's going to be a little too complex, and like, you're not emotionally there to absorb something like a Schindler's List to be on that extreme angle. So you're going to go over to the theater and watch, I don't know, Masters of the Universe or Scary Movie because it's dumb enough for you to enjoy, even though you know you're walking into a bad movie. It's like, my point is, I don't think hate watching or bad movie nights, unless you're like not at the theater, are actually all that helpful with anime. Because are you really going to sit down and watch all like 50, 60 shows that come out? Are you going to give emotional wavelength to the greatest shows of the season and the most slop-tastic of shit? Where some of them, the main joke is that the curvy hot anime girl gets harassed. No. You're going to turn that shit off. I guess I just can't wrap my head around saying, watch the hot trash anime because it's entertaining. Why? Why should I sit down and watch The Strongest Job is Apparently Not a Hero or Sage when I could instead watch Witch Hat Adelaide? Or why should I want to end this love game when I could watch Go for It Nakamura instead? No, I guess I just don't get the psychology of it.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I don't like this term anymore, but, the concept of a guilty pleasure. But at the same time, in an industry that's such a conveyor belt, like, these companies don't care how or why you're watching the bad anime. They just care that you're watching it, and they consider that an endorsement.
I just can't picture that. Like, I guess I just don't get it. Like, some of these anime talking heads can explain it to me better, but I just feel like it's not helpful to try to justify watching anime, because then it becomes like, are you actually proud, or are you reverting back to being ashamed that you watch anime because you watched crap? But I don't know. Like, for example, one of the honorable mentions of like the shows that I watched is My Ridiculous Reincarnation. It's an isekai, but it deals with the fact that our lead character is so pathetic that when he instantly chooses, like, well, I want to be the main hero of a fantasy land with a harem and all that, and be as strong as God, the goddess of the reincarnation system is like, okay, well, you can choose that, but since it's such a hotly chosen career, you have to wait 50,000 years until you're up next. It's basically the waiting room line at the end of Beetlejuice. And so instead of to pass the time, he's like, well, I don't want to wait that long. So here, how about this? I want to be the main character of a fantasy world where I get the hot girls. But instead of being the main character, I want to be the main character's rib. And it's like, fucking what? And that's the whole premise of the show. He just keeps getting reincarnated as utter nonsense because the wait line isn't that long. Like, he turns into a hermit crab. He turns into the door of the Demon Lord's castle. And what's fun about this show is it has all these vibrant, different visual styles every episode and every time that he gets reincarnated. It's really cool. I was so ready to put this on the ones to recommend until you realize it's basically the same repetitive execution of the joke. And one episode has some generative AI in it.
Oh. Ew.
And it's like, y'all, no, don't do that. And also to the point of, there are popular manga getting adapted way too late, and you're telling me that these things are supposed to be popular, and yet you couldn't get the resources to make them look better or be better adaptations and such. Like, there's The Drops of God, which is about wine tasting. Hugely popular around the world. Has a 6 out of 10 visual style and very flat directing. Or Liar's Game, the anime where it basically spun the KG Ultimate Survivors and was a direct inspiration for stuff like Squid Game. Like, literally. And it just looks whatever when it's supposed to be this intense, creative, thrilling mystery puzzle game like anime of watching these two people solve the puzzles, play the games, and win all the money. But it looks like crap, mostly. And should there be a expiration date of when you can get an adaptation at one point? Because it's so funny, because I wrote an editorial about the fact that people are being weirdly gatekeepy with the fact that, like, a lot of the great horror directors are either comedic people or YouTubers right now. And yet here I am saying about anime being like, yo, I don't think y'all are ready for this. You know what? It's too late. I'm sorry you didn't get an anime adaptation, but it's too late.
When it comes to this, the only danger in a manga waiting too long to be adapted is, and long-time fans of mine will know this, the John Carter effect, where
oh yes, poor John Carter.
where by the time the adaptation is finally released, so many other stories that have been influenced by it will have come out and probably be even better than the original source material. So then you're kind of left with the question, why now?
Well, and that happened last season. The manga that spun off Aura in High School Host Club got adapted finally, and you watch it and it's like, I know it's not its fault that it came out too late, but this is so blah. But another honorable mention would be like Kill Blue, which is basically what if you took the Detective Conan storyline where, young man turns back into a kid, but is still like the super smart detective, or in this case, a hired hitman. And so many creatives forget about this, and it's such no shit, this is obvious. But you know what? People keep forgetting about it. I like the characters. They're a lot of fun. Sure, there's a lot of anime BS where, of course, the main character's favorite food is ramen. Okay, whatever, otaku bait. But it's like, it's got likable characters. There's a lot of fun stuff, like the lead actually loves learning and doing homework and such, which sounds like such a weird 50s or 80s Reagan-era propaganda campaign of, like, love learning or whatever. Like the DARE campaign of learning. But luckily, it's like, I guess this is like a backhanded compliment. Doing the bare minimum made them more enjoyable to watch than just being another isekai, another harem, another just whatever show and such. Which, isn't that kind of the case now? There's so much coming out where it's just like, oh wow, you did the bare minimum, here's a gold star.
Yeah, it is kind of a shame that, like, that's the standard now. Congratulations, you just barely outdid, like, the standard of, like, typical isekai.
It's just frustrating because I know there's a lot of cool, creative people out there just trying to get their stories out there, and yet the whole industry is just like, hey, an isekai, let's do that. Well, it's not good. Well, that doesn't matter. It's an isekai. Let's do that. So...
And that's probably one of the reasons why I've personally been, for the most part, turned off by the genre. Like, I just don't think it's for me. It's, not just like, me and personally, like, I'm just, can't get into stories that are like pure escapism, if that makes sense. But it's also like, isekais have just basically become the new, like, battle shonen. Here's another one. Great.
Like, at the very least, Battle Shonen have upped their game to at least make the characters compelling. And it's not just, I want to be the number one bullshit.
I want to be writer. The very best. The best who ever was.
So it says, like, it just seems like someone, like, they need to either start, like, what's the word I'm thinking of? They need to start, like, not fleecing's not the right word, but, like, when people are, like, looking for gold and such, they get those big colanders and such where they start shaking it through and then letting all the soot, the dust, the sand, whatever out. Yeah. It's like they need to start doing that. And maybe this is a hot take, and maybe this would just you would have to uproot the whole industry to do this. Cap it off at 20 shows every seasonal drop. Do, like, 10 returning shows so you have your safety nets, and then do 10 new shows. Having about 50 to 60 shows is...
Oh, no, that's crazy. Like, if you have to push it, like, it shouldn't be any more than 30.
It's already, like, pushing beyond 30 at this point, and it's just like, what are y'all doing? So let's just get to... I'm just going to list the ones that I highly recommend watching for this season, because there's a lot of good ones. And this is in no particular order. This is not a ranking. I'll do that at another time. My first choice is Kiryo's Fan Club. It is probably the best anime I've seen from High Dive this season.
Ooh.
And it's another category of let girls be fucking weirdos.
Hell yeah.
And that's because it's about these two friends who are hugely obsessed with this one boy, but in no way is it like I mean, I guess you could say it fails the Bechdel test, but it's also in a way where it's like watching two, like, Swifties gush over Taylor Swift, and how Taylor Swift doesn't even probably know who the fuck they are. And here's this guy who these two girls are crushing on, and he seems like the most whatever guy, but they're just like, you know what? I want to be close enough to him to where I can hear him fart. And this is an actual line from the episode. It's not a fetish thing. They're just like that obsessed. They just want to be near him. And the whole show portrays their obsession with him, not in a creepy, like, rewarding the stalker, toxic fandom kind of thing. More in a way of just like, these are like the saddest bitches you have ever seen. Where their going to bed mantra is, you're going to dream of Kiryo tonight while you sleep.
Oh, damn.
And that's what's fun. It's a very dry, witty show of just like, these girls have nothing better to do. They don't have things to do outside of school or even during school. They're just like, you know, what is a great way we can just go talk to Kiryo? And like the one interaction they have with him in the first episode is just like him being like, they run into him and his friend is like, oh, Kiryo, by the way, you wanted to ask them something? And he's just like, do you ever like check like all the moles that you have on your body? To them, and then they're just like, they treat it as like the coolest thing ever, but it's also the saddest thing ever. Like, this guy is not interesting, and that's the point. But it's because that he's not the main goal. It's just like watching these two friends be kind of pathetic together, and that's fun. Because again, that works. People want to see that. They want to see, I support failure girls, or what the term is. Oh, I support women's rights and wrongs. That kind of thing. Just in that, like, term and such. The next one is Go For It Nakamura, which, listen, you know how many anime out there these days are like, I can't believe I am falling for a guy. I can't possibly be gay. Or, I'm a girl. Why am I crushing on a girl? Or they do the dreaded, like, thing that almost maybe killed Witch from Mercury, the Gundam series, where they're like, hey, they're just best friends. They're just roommates. And it's like, bitch, that's not what the show is telling me. But Go For It Nakamura is about a failure of a man who is crushing on his classmate horribly. And by the first episode, and I referenced this way back when we were talking about Digital Circus, because it is undeniably, proudly out there, stubbornly sticking its heels in the ground, gay. Because Nakamura goes, I am Nakamura, I go to high school, I am gay, and I'm in love with my classmates. Like, you'd have to be not paying attention to not hear that from the first episode. And I just feel like, why is that so refreshing? Oh, right, because Japan still has homophobic issues, just like the rest of the world. So, to see this, like, almost like, the art style be like so Rumiko Takahashi coded in terms of its designs and such, very like old school anime flair.
Okay.
And it is so chaotic. It's a little much if you decide to binge it, so I'd recommend maybe doing like 2 or 3 episodes at a time if you want to watch it. But it is hilarious. Just probably the loudest I've laughed during the season, next to some of the other ones I've talked about. The next one is called The Ramparts of Ice. And this one's on Netflix. Netflix actually has a few good shows this season. I'm so happy about that. Ramparts of Ice is about a girl who has been bullied her whole life and has basically said, you know what? Fuck it. If they want to ostracize me, I'm just going to put up an Ice Queen persona and deal with that. And that's what people are going to think about me? Fine. That's just what's going to happen. I'm just going to be alone. And she runs into people who, while not having the same exact problem as her, are all wearing a metaphorical mask. It's all about the drama of this girl and these guys dropping their guard and opening up to be friends with people, which, again, you would think this is an easy thing to focus on. No, it's not, apparently. It's refreshing. And I hate that I have to say it's refreshing to say that a show is focusing on characters. Or it's like how gals can't be kind to otaku, which is like a boy who likes anime just so happens to befriend two hot popular girls who also happen to be in anime. But in a way that it makes you want to say like, well, you know what? You don't have to innovate every time. And it's just about them opening up. And I mean, it's one of those shows where you're a found friends group kind of thing. And it's funny because one of the girls doesn't even care about anime, but since she sees how happy it makes her friend and this other guy, she gets into it too and starts enjoying it. So it's like, screw it. You don't have to be innovative. You just have to be well executed. And that's cool. It's just, people forget that you just have to make a good product. I mean, make a good story and such. I'm going to start running through some of these faster. A Marriage Toxin. Probably my favorite show next to Witch Hat Adelaide this season, which is about a poison master assassin who befriends a cross-dressing young man who then helps him with the one thing he can't do, and that's basically go on a date, pick up a girl, and such. He's so good at being a killer that he's just like a complete disaster everywhere else. And this is a Studio Bones production. Studio Bones actually has like 2 killer anime out this season. It has good action. The character dynamics is great. They really get the whole like cross-dressing co-lead thing out of the way early to where it's just kind of like whatever. And they don't treat it as like a reoccurring gag and such. And while there is like an abundance of female characters in this who are like other assassins and such, they do give them like actual layers and like differentiate one another. And on top of the amazing direction and fighting and such, it's also just really funny. Just because there's always something really funny about seeing a guy. It's basically like, what if John Wick went back out into the dating scene? And he was just completely not ready for that. He could kill 251 different ways, but he doesn't know how to have idle chatter. Like, he doesn't know how to be like, hey, look at this piece of art. Look at, like, you can take away the symbolic nature of it all, and he's just kind of like, I like the blue. If you're fans of Full Metal Alchemist, the creator of that has a new show out this season called Demons of the Shadow Realm. Do you mind if I spoil the premise of this? Because it kind of relies on you.
You're good.
Okay. It's basically like, it starts out, young man in a feudal era village, has a sister who may or may not be demon possessed, and he goes and visits her all the time and such. One day, though, finds out that this isn't a feudal era fantasy show, because he sees helicopters flying above the feudal village that he lives in. And it turns out that it's like this weird mountain village that is hidden away from the rest of the world, while everything else in the real world is like modern day. And to save himself from his village getting attacked and stuff, he summons 2 demons, guardians, and there's really cool action. Since it's from the Full Metal Alchemist creator, it's got a distinct visual style. It's really cool. It's really charming. Because, I mean, that's just one of the things. That creator is just going to put out killer stuff. It has charm and personality to it. It feels like no other show out there. If you want the most unique show of the season, though, Akane Banashi. How many of you are are you two familiar with Rakugo?
That does sound familiar.
So Rakugo is the Japanese form of storytelling where it's like comedy, but it's like you're trying to tell a compelling story that leads up to one punchline. And it's basically a shonen battle anime, but with storytelling instead of fighting. And I know that sounds like, well, that sounds boring. No, this is like the coolest thing ever. Anime is one of those mediums of storytelling where you can make a whole show about Rakugo, and it will be like the peakest anime that you can find out there. It's on Netflix. It's so good. It's got a great female lead. It's got a good, compelling stake throughout the whole show when you find out, like, her dad and every Rakugo artist that was a part of this one school got expelled one year. So there's this looming mystery of, like, why did that happen? It's really cool shit. And again, anime is the one medium that can do this, where if you try to sell this to an American studio, they'd be like, what the fuck is this? Can't we, like, add some action and comedies, maybe a fart joke here and there? And it's just like, no, it's just like, it's just funny, you know? Like, you don't think you want a show about Rakugo, but then you watch it and you're like, this is going to be my whole personality now. Speaking of Rumiko Takahashi, she has a new show out this season called Mal, which is about a young girl who survives a demon attack and ends up being able to travel to, I think, 19th century or 18th century Japan through I'm about to say it's basically Takahashi's greatest hits, because I was about to say, like, this sounds like Inuyasha, but it's not Inuyasha. She could travel through an alleyway to go back to, I think, like 19th century or so, like I said, 20th century Japan, and meets a young man who is cursed by this demonic cat entity and can easily travel back and forward from the past to the present. And her blood can hurt demons. So there's, again, building up on top of the mystery and the driving force of the plots. It's got really good action. It's got really fun characters. It has a lot of the, again, Takahashi greatest hits. So she's a young girl who has quirky grandparents, especially with the grandmother being like, I need you to drink your healthy smoothie, even though it looks like it would rot my insides from the inside out. So it's like, it's like Kagome's grandfather being like, hey, like with her friends coming by, like, hey, where's Kagome? How's she doing? And the grandfather would, continuously build upon like ridiculous ailments and bullshit that's happened to her and such. It's like, yeah, she had toenails growing out of her back. And it's like, what the fuck? Okay. And the boy who she was crushing on in the real world, it's just like,
oh, Hojo.
Hojo would come by and be like, hey, Kagome, here's this thing for your back toenails. And Kagome's like, Grandpa, what the fuck did you tell them? Like, I will not understand the weird hate that some anime creators have with Rumiko Takahashi. Her shit is great.
You never hear shit about her. She just collects her paychecks. But I'm actually kind of excited because I didn't even realize that Mao was getting an anime. But it was kind of weird because Mao was actually, I don't know if it's still being serialized, but it's been like out for a minute. So I'm kind of glad that an adaptation is finally out now. I mean, because she's been doing really well with recent adaptations, because that new Ranma adaptation is good.
I did like that one quite a bit.
Well, it was funny. Me and my friend tried watching the original Ranma, and it was a lot of fun, but it got to that point where it's like, oh my god, I can't stand this. Just because of, adaptations of the time period and such. And then you watch a new one, and it's like, I could binge this through an entire day. I'm not going to work. Give me more Ranma. And Mao is just another good Rumiko Takahashi joint. So if you like her work, then you're going to like this show. But if you're in the mood for robots, Snowball Earth is the show for you. Because it's all about how... And by the way, this show got a crazy amount of hype, because it's kind of hard to sell a non-Gundam or Evangelion show these days, because there aren't many mecha shows out there. Snowball Earth got the hype from Hideo Kojima, Hideaki Anno, and Yoko Taro. And if you know anything about those three, then that's a big freaking deal. And it's about a young boy who becomes a absurd mech pilot, like talented mech pilot, but only because he somehow knows how to pilot a robot that was originally made just to be a bomb. And even the giant robot itself is like protesting in the beginning of the show, being like, fight back against my creators because I don't want to be a walking bomb. And the boy gets forced into it, of course, very much like, you're the only one to pilot this egg-shaped robot. Get in the egg, Shinji. And then, unfortunately, after a failed mission to try to stop the kaiju from attacking the planet, he gets launched out of the robot, and there's this great scene with the robots like, listen, I am a thief because I stole your childhood because you didn't grow up to have one, because you were stuck defending Earth from kaiju and such. Like, shockingly, genuinely great moments mixed in with dry comedy when you find out that he basically gets frozen in time, like in space, and ends up back on Earth after it's basically frozen over, where humans are now living underground. And there's, again, y'all say you want darker storylines and darker comedy, but then are weirdly polarized by this show's mix of really dark, dry comedy. There's a moment in the second episode where the boy thinks he found someone to talk to, only to find out that it was an old man on a miniature bulldozer snow plow thing who froze to death and falls apart in front of him. And he's just like, well, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to take this vehicle now. Then he finds actually finds people and connections and such. And it's hard to make a robot show stand out, especially when so many want to be the next Getter Robo or Evangelion or Gundam and have weird, maybe nationalistic politics. But this show is just about playing around with the giant mech show tropes and formulas. So I'm always down for that. 100 Scenes of Awajima is about a group of girls who go to a very specific art school, which is all about acting in plays and such. It's like the reverse kabuki theater, where kabuki is this traditional form of stage acting and storytelling that, oddly enough, is just guys only. And Iwajima is those schools and stories about going to an all-girls school and doing shows like Romeo and Juliet and such. And instead of just being this weird, quirky slice-of-life show, it treats these teenagers as, gasp, real people. Wow, that's such a novel concept. I don't think I've ever heard that thing before. Which, again, anime is one of those few mediums who are willing and able to say, yes, let's make a show focused around a group of female characters and treat them like people and not objects of desire or gooning. And let's focus on the struggles of the goal. The stakes are they're trying to keep their friendships together while also wanting to be the main lead in whether it's Romeo and Juliet or, ironically enough, Wuthering Heights are literally referenced within this show. And it's so quiet, it's so peaceful, and it just lets you sit there with the characters. You understand their drives and how sometimes you just don't have the talent. And it can be heartbreaking, but that just happens, It's a Ratatouille thing. Not everyone can be a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. And I keep forgetting that, even though I'm so done with all these shows being based around teenagers, they still tell good stories with them. And since this has the same director of My Love Story, which is another great show, it treats it like it's a adult drama. And, you're in for a good time for that. So... Now, unfortunately, Amazon Prime, their anime pickups kind of got overshadowed by the really bad Fist of the North Star adaptation, because it's just Amazon Prime, you're either going to get a good dub or a bad dub. And unfortunately, even as prolific as Fist of the North Star is, you're getting the bad dub.
Ouch.
But their other one, and this show is getting buried, and I don't know why. It is so good. It's called Nippon Sakugo, The Three Nations of the Crimson Sun. Japan goes through a economic crisis that basically kills the entire nation after a nuclear fallout, where basically it gets so bad there, they revert back to Three Kingdom era, Edo period, separation and time period kind of stuff, where there's no cars, there's no high-tech stuff. People get around on carriages, on foot, they use swords, they use antique guns. They basically go the route of the samurai and whatever. Our main character is a young man who wants to unite the nations. And if you're a Japanese historian nerd, you kind of know who this character is based on, who wanted to unify Japan instead of, Japan being segregated by so many nations that are at war with one another. His whole ability is he's not the strongest fighter. He doesn't have the best swordsman skills. He's not oh, whoops, I made a deal with a demon, so now I'm super strong. He's a negotiator. He can somehow get through any situation by talking and knowing the proper discussion etiquette. And he even does this when he finds out that his wife gets murdered in the first episode. And through means of, AP English for the win, he gets the person who killed his wife murdered on the spot. Because through a clever use of words, confirms that the killer, who was a political official, called the lord of that area fat. And the guy was just like, okay, you know what? Kill the guy, you're free to go, bye. And it's just interesting. It's, again, a very adult show. The art style is very, not like anime figurine friendly. There's no like anime wife kind of designs here. It's very distinct. It's very adult in its design work. And the cinematography is so good. You get first person shots in this, all animated, whether it's rotoscoped or whatever. But they went through the process and effort to get the resources to basically give this theatrical quality animation at points.
Wow.
And I can't understand why people are not watching more of this. It's got, again, good characters, good action, great animation, a great premise of a nation trying to reform and unify itself again. Just good shit without it falling into the nationalistic trap, like that some shows fall into with this kind of premise. And I would say that Agents of the Four Seasons, Dance of the Spring was going to be a favorite. I watched 2 episodes. It's by the same people who made Violet Evergarden.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, I find the main character a little too annoying, and that's kind of a deal breaker for many. But I still recommend it. It's on the outskirts of the recommendation tree. And who knows, once it's done its full run, we'll talk about it, because I definitely want to see where y'all would have landed with this show. Now, the best show of the season, and it was obviously going to be the best show. It was the most hyped show of the season. Witch Hat Adelaide, the magical girl anime that inspired the Owl House among many others. And you kind of see like, wait, this inspired Owl House. Well, yeah, its way of performing magic is through drawing magical seals and circles and such. Of course, like, it makes so much sense now that you look back at the Owl House and how Luz basically gets around on that show by having like a piece, like a notebook, and drawing different magical circles that represent like fire, ice, whatever, and such. It's directed by the great Ayumu Watanabe.
Hell yeah.
And who did Children of the Sea and Fortune Favors Lady Nikuko, among many other things. Its animation is theatrical quality. It's basically MAPPA-level animation, but without the MAPPA crunch to it. This show took so long to get made, and you can tell it looks gorgeous. It has some of the most visually stunning imagery and cinematography, and you could tell that a lot of this was hand-drawn with maybe some computer-assisted, like Demon Slayer kind of stuff. Because, you know what? The way that they get some of these shots, I don't know how the fuck you do that by hand. It is that stunning. It's got a great cast. You got the white-haired main witch guy. And again, one of those things where witch is used as a non-gendered term, which... It's just so funny because you know how recently we got Pixar's trailer for Gato, which actually looks pretty freaking good. And today there were some images released for Hexed, that new movie from Disney and such.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes you wonder how upset Disney was with the Owl House, with how they were like, no, girls are witches, boys are wizards. And it's like, no, witches are the main term here. It's non-gendered, and they're just like, you disappoint us with the fact that we're homophobic as fuck. So it's just like, it's again refreshing to see a non-gendered way to approach magic and such, and how these girl characters are really cool and compelling. There's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of cool world building with the magic system. The villains are scary as fuck, and it's just good. It's just a damn good show that got the time and resources put into it to be the best show of the season. And I started with this one and I was like, well, darn. Everything else is just not going to be up to this thing. But luckily, I'm curious. I have a diverse palette for anime. I'm not just watching the main shonen battle hype shows. Adelaide is just good. And we're definitely going to talk about it alongside Marriage Talks and
Nippon Sengoku.
yeah, that one. And Akane Banashi. Like, this is why anime is great. All these distinct stories and characters. Like, there's not one show from the ones I recommend that you can compare and contrast to. And isn't that just like why art is great? You can just have a multitude of different experiences. It's just, it makes you love, it makes you hate anime at the same time because of how bad the industry is, right? But let's talk about another piece of historically important animation. We're finally getting to the point of I Am Frankelda, the first stop-motion animated film from Mexico. I didn't get to see this at Animationist Film, but I got to talk to the directors of it, and they were very nice guys. And again, Mexico apparently doesn't have a very good film and animation foundation. So it just, gotta reinforce. Tell your government that we should start focusing and emphasizing tax credits and tax incentives for the arts. Not, having a UFC fight on the White House lawn. Mike, what did you think about this movie?
I liked it. First of all, I love the fact that it's a musical, and I kind of was taken aback by that at first because I was really just more focused on the creativity of the visuals, of its use of mixed media, and just the overall creativity of what this story is trying to do. The problem, though, is narratively it can be a bit messy.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I Am Frankelda is a prequel to the Frankelda TV series that you can watch at least in the US, on HBO Max, about a ghost girl who tells you scary stories and such. And in the movie, it's set before that, where it's about a young girl who loves writing scary stories. And after her mother passes away, she basically gets told and censored to be like, don't write that stuff. You're a girl. You can't do that shit. And you gotta do other things because you're not going to be a writer. And through some messy lore and storytelling, her stories become connected to this underworld, which I think it's like the land of the dead, but not really, with the entities that are there because they give humans nightmares and things that then, like, it's very Monsters, Inc. in some regards. They give the humans nightmares and then they keep surviving as entities and such.
I was just going to say, that's a very good comparison. It's not quite as corporate, but then again, there is a line that I think is kind of perfectly describes studio heads.
Yeah, so in the supernatural world, it's funny because it kind of takes a little bit from the Dark Crystal in terms of storytelling, because there used to be this feathered spider entity who got killed and then separated into bird people and then like spider people. And the bird people rule and they just want to help everyone, while the other species that are down there want to basically rise up and take over the human realm and such. And the main villain is Spiderfolk, who is the main creative giver of nightmares. And the world is dying because he has basically been telling mediocre stories and nightmares and such. And very corporate head who never got to create his own thing, now punishing the rest of the world because he was told no once. And he says in one part of the movie, the audiences are always to blame. And it's funny because the movie itself is like kind of self-aware of the fact that the spider guy is the bad guy and everything is basically his fault. Because the main goal is that the prince of the kingdom goes up to bring Frankelda back down to the spirit world to help make new nightmares, to bring new life and such to the world. Only for the people who basically run the quote-unquote government down there to silence her and tell her stories aren't good, but while also stealing her work to then fund their own regime change to take down the patriarchy that was actually doing pretty okay, and, bringing the world to a very bad place, to say the least. And unfortunately, while that sounds very straightforward, hey Bree, guess what happens?
My God, what happens, Cameron?
Lore bloats!
Ah, near, far, wherever you are. Like a giant... Have you ever seen the meme of, the iceberg and there's more and more underneath?
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly like that. You, the casual viewer, are, on the ship and then... as metal scrapes, and then Leonardo DiCaprio is, on part of a bed frame. It's, bad.
Unfortunately, that's what this movie runs into, and while there are so many cool designs and visual looks for all the entities and such, it's a lot to look at, and there's a lot to build up, to the point that Frankelda is not really in the movie a whole lot at points. I mean, she's there. I'm not saying she's not Rosalina from the Mario Galaxy movie. She's not just there at the beginning and then at the end. She is a important part of the plot, but I don't think the movie is good enough to know how to get from point A to point B. Point A, point B, and then point F, and then back to point D, and then instead of going to E, it goes to point H. And for a movie that's about an hour 40, it takes a lot of time to rush through moments that could have really used to build up more. They kind of build up the romance between Frankelda and the prince, but I wouldn't say the romance is one of the great animated romances of the year.
No,
or anything
and
like that.
Therein lies the problem. There is just too much going on that no one subplot can be the focus.
It brings up all these supposedly villainous people who are openly aware that the spider guy sucks, but they follow his lead because he's like, I can get us to rule the kingdom and give you all ways to explore into the human world. And yet there's also an evil grandmother character who tries to tell Frankelda to stay in your room and sew all these socks together because you're not a storyteller. There's all this, a lot of this movie would have just been better if it focused on the fact that Frankelda is a woman who is trying to survive in a world that is trying to take her agency away. If you need to know what the movie is about, it's about a woman struggling to keep her identity and her agency from people who want to abuse and use her skills and talents and such. And that's compelling. But there's also, again, evil grandma who kind of comes off like the evil aunt from the original Disney Beauty and the Beast adaptation before she got torn out of the story for good reason.
Thank you, Howard Ashman.
Yeah, thank
Seriously.
you, Howard Ashman. And there's no real solution or ending to that arc or conflict. For as much that happens in this movie, the villain doesn't truly get his comeuppance. And maybe he does in the show, but I don't know if he does. Because he's just kind of standing there in the background in the final scene that you see him in.
Menacingly, like that one SpongeBob scene. There he is, standing there, menacingly.
Because it's just wait a minute, take him out and kill him. He killed your prince. What are you guys doing? And to get rid of all of the evil spirits, this one guy who apparently maybe killed the feathery spider entity from the past, just not even kills, just teleports all the evil entities away. And there's a two-headed bird, a creepy demonic mermaid, a chupacabra, this cool coyote ghost entity who turns out to be the only cool person, and this horned, six-armed demon dude. And yet they're all just it's like the Beetlejuice sequel that we got, 2 years ago or so?
Yeah.
Where it's just we gotta get rid of this villain somehow. Okay, pop. Just done. And it's okay, there's no real closure there. There's this kind of inconsistent thing, or maybe it's just something I couldn't quite pick up on. When the king and queen, or at the very least the king, is slowly starting to get closer to death's door. They do this really cool technique where it's part of his body is becoming ectoplasm, ghostly and such. So it looks like this cotton substance. And then yet later on in the movie, that's not there anymore. And it's so what? Did he just like Monty Python himself, be I got better. There's like a few things I wish the movie would have built upon, and it seems like it's kind of over-relying on the lore and just like the vibrancy of the world. Because again, Frankelda kind of disappears for parts of the movie. So it could focus on this like underworld drama. And unless you know about the TV show, it's kind of weird because like you kind of know what's going to happen. Frankelda is going to be the great storyteller. The boyfriend dies and then becomes reincarnated as part of her storybook at the end, which is a cute ending and such. And like again, the ending is great where it's just like Frankelda's being like, I'm going to keep living because I want to keep writing. That's going to keep being my reason to live because I can create and stand above people who want to tear me down. And I don't know, maybe I'm just explaining it better. Like, I'm saying it's better than what it actually is. But, it is good. It is a good movie. But the execution falls flat, and that sucks. For stop motion, it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
It has these, like, really, maybe slightly overly detailed designs. Because sometimes when they're trying to move, and they don't have that fluid Aardman or Leica movement to them, it looks a little clunky, and sometimes it's just like, what am I looking at? Like, the cinematography could have been a little better. Because sometimes it knows how to hold a shot, sometimes it knows how to do big, sweeping shots, and then sometimes it just feels like the camera freaks out. And I can't believe I'm saying this because we kind of tell people who are dub haters to calm the fuck down and go touch some grass. Watch this in the original Spanish.
Yes, I agree. And not just because you get to hear like some amazing singing in the original language, but mostly that.
Like the acting's better, and the dub is fine. It's fine. There's some good people attached to it, like Deborah Wilson's in it.
It's a Netflix dub. It's going to be competently done. But also, sometimes it is better to watch in the original. Like, Godzilla -1 technically has an English dub, but you ain't gonna fucking watch that in English.
Absolutely not.
No, and it's a fine dub. I'm not gonna say... Let's just say this. The second anime dub studio that Amazon uses is still, like, the bottom tier, like, we're back in Central Park Media era bad dubbing of it all. Where here, it's just kind of like, it's fine. But I also understand, it's like the Neza 2 dub. It was probably really hard to try to make the English script match the pacing of animation here from animation and such. Like, harder than, like, most anime, because anime sometimes just does, like, the up and down mouth flap. So, okay, you can time your words there. It's tough.
Yeah, I think when it comes to either stop motion, CG, are a little bit harder to dub. Not impossible, just harder because, like you said, like the lip flaps aren't just up and down. You're good, like you run the risk of being taken out of the narrative more when they're not speaking in the original language.
It's funny because I don't think I've been doing that a lot more with like cartoons and movies and animated movies from Mexico, because what was that Cartoon Network show that has like a fan base? But
Villainous.
Yeah, Villainous, where I was like, okay, the dub is fine, but I'm just going to switch over to the original Spanish dub because it's better, and not because I hate Markiplier or anything like that. It's nothing dumb or weird like that. It just works better sometimes when you just watch it with the original language intended. And it's not like they don't sing well or anything like that, because again, this is a musical and such. Mostly a slightly operatic musical in terms of like its tone and such. Very Broadway opera, I guess, to describe it. Especially with the villain song, with who the traitor is. The villain song is the best song in the movie. It's extremely long, but it also does this thing where we're calling it stop motion, but then it goes into a 2D painted sequences multiple times, which I'm sure they had to hand paint that shit.
That definitely looks hand painted. Like, regardless of what I think of the story, I think that musical sequence is the coolest visual presentation in like the entire movie.
And I like the music here, but I wouldn't say this is going to be like my favorite musical of the year, which might be the only musical of the year depending on what else comes out. But hey, if we got competing musicals, I'm down in animations. And I also just think there could have been stronger character moments. Like, again, the Prince and Frankelda are fine. It just seemed like it was kind of like stumbling to be both the prequel story to the show and also have like a little bit of a wrap up around the TV show, just in case there's no more episodes and such. Of just like Frankelda's just going to be who she is. She's going to write her stories. She's going to keep surviving. Because even after like the prince dies, they stop the villain. The kingdom goes after the traitorous entities off screen. It's just messy, but I'm not going to be a hater about it and say that it dragged down the experience the whole time. I think it's still a lot of fun. I'll say this, I enjoyed watching this more than Scarlet. Like, if we're talking about messy plots and such.
I mean, to be fair, Scarlet, and this is going to make me sound really mean, is kind of in the bottom tier of mess, where it's kind of like, not even like an interesting hot mess, it's just kind of a badly constructed plot. Which, to me, is honestly the worst thing you could do.
Exactly. At least here, it's like you're caught up with watching all the visual wonder and designs, and then being like, okay, that plot feels kind of rushed. Okay, we're done with that. Okay. But it's a good time, and I like that we're supporting this, because again, well, quick little tangent, because we'll wrap this up soon. I got a couple followers today on Blue Sky because they liked that I was very supportive of watching non-US animation, like just the big studio stuff. And it's like, that's what I like doing. I like watching the other stuff that's coming out. And this is why I like it, because you don't get to watch Mexico's first stop-motion animated feature that was backed by Guillermo del Toro on your side and such, often. Like, when can you say you historically, as an animation fan, get to do something like that?
No, I really hope one of these days he does show up to something like animation film, because I'd be like, hey, man, thank you for inspiring me. Like, how do you do it? Like, how do you just find this talent, and like, how do you cultivate it? Because my follow-up question is, why are so many of your colleagues not doing that?
Seriously.
Yeah, it's like they know what it's like. The creative industry knows what it needs to do. You need to get enough talent for yourself and like stuff out there so you can then use that to help raise other people up. Stop pulling the ladder up behind you, you jerks.
We talked about this a while ago with like regarding Studio Ghibli. One of my biggest criticisms of them is the fact that they don't really future-proof new talent.
And I guess it's just like, why couldn't the news of one of the biggest filmmakers in the world not like inspire Mexico's government to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to start doing more incentives for the arts. So tax credits, like law support, or like, it's kind of like what like Blue Sky Studios was known for, like outside of being one of the more decent studios to work at, that they were making their movies based in an area of California that gave them tax incentives.
Well, actually, Blue Sky was based in Connecticut.
Oh, I'm sorry, not California, Connecticut. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. So it's just like, what helps all these people in making all these great, amazing projects, whether it's Japan, Europe, Australia, tax credits and tax incentives? It's not AI. AI is not going to do that shit. Jorge.
And also, as an East Coaster, I'm like, let's bring shit back to Connecticut. There's a lot of great productions that film in Connecticut. Connecticut's nice. It's also like New York, but slightly less expensive.
Gosh. It reminds me when Michigan had tax incentives for filming there, and then the governor there was like, nope, taking those away, fuck you guys. And everyone's just like, fuck you too? What are you doing? Because it's, again, so many places around the world, mostly in the US, just, for some reason, just hate the world of art. Because it's counterintuitive to what a bunch of stupid people believe in. Art is life. It brings people together. It brings out the best in people, for the most part. And it leads to cool shit like I Am Frankelda. Even with all my issues with it, I Am Frankelda is a cool project. I liked watching it. It's a 4 out of 5 for me. Please go watch it. Go watch it. If you're always going to want to look for and support non-US based theatrical animation, then you gotta watch it. I know it's on Netflix, but just get over it. Like, give it a watch, y'all. At the very least, support new artists and voices and such.
Exactly.
So next time, we're taking a break on this next week or so because I got stuff to do. I'm going on vacation. But the next time, we're going to talk about some Annecy stuff. We're not going to Annecy, but we got screeners.
Yay!
So we're going to talk about a few of the movies there. And from there,
we literally have Annecy at home.
which is the best thing you could ask for an animation fan and critic. And then I guess we'll talk about Toy Story 5 too. Which surprisingly is getting I'm tampering expectations about that, but I've heard some positive words, but we'll see what happens. But I can't wait to talk about the Annecy stuff. That's just, my top 10 has been kind of complacent, and all these screeners are going to, shake the shit up.
Which I am definitely looking forward to. But until next time, Bree, where can everyone find you online?
If you wish to find my Frankelda hole, you can follow me at Crazy Lemur .bsky.social. I am also on Instagram at LemursRoll1. I know, I still haven't done the flower show pics, but you can see some really cute pictures of my dog. So if you like cute pictures of dogs, follow me there.
And Cameron?
Well, first of all, cute dogs are always a recommendation. If you don't like cute dogs, then I don't want to know anything about you. You get out of my face right now. You can catch me on Blue Sky at camseyeview.biz. I do have Twitter, but I'm not really there anymore. I have a website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am a contributor to Media Magpies, your new one-stop shop for written editorials about the world of movies, TVs, shows, games, and pop culture in general. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview, which is in the slow process of getting rebooted. So, I'm going to tear it down and then build it back up. So I can't wait. So
awesome. And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Renegade Pop Culture. Find us on YouTube at Renegade Pop Culture or Organoid Zero. Find us on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.